Sanders joining us now from Parrish, Florida. Kerry, what's the coronavirus situation in Manatee County right now?
Well, trying to avoid coronavirus and contact with it is much like trying to avoid the rain clouds that are over the school here as kids finish their first day of school. It's something that you have to pay attention to, and it's all up to the vigilance of the individual. So in Manatee County, population about 318,000, they've done a pretty good job. The rate is 3% exposure to coronavirus, certainly below the 5% required to open up schools. So that's a good sign. But still, let's take a look at the numbers. And you can see still here, since the pandemic began in March, 9,735 total cases, 245 deaths. So understandably, to each of those families that lost someone, the coronavirus is a very serious concern. And then finally, look at the latest numbers as of Saturday, 73 new cases, but 16 of those new cases in the age group under the age of 14.
Oh, wow.
That's especially important as the first day of school here wraps up, families bringing their kids to school and then bringing them back home after a fun-filled day at school, finally getting back into the classroom, Allison.
Yeah, I bet a lot of those kids are pretty excited to see each other again. Kerry, what are county leaders there doing to keep students safe?
Well, many schools across the country have had to work up plans, among them providing temperature checks, making sure people necessarily wash their hands throughout the day. Here, they're also providing masks to the kids. They have 293,000. That is no small expense when you consider there's 47 schools here, 50,200 kids. They have the mask for them at both state, local, and also federal money. And of course, the expense of opening the schools across the country has been a big one. But at least on day one, it looks like things worked well. And very few kids needed to get a mask handed to them. Everyone we saw arrive at the school was wearing a mask, and most of the kids ending their school day still had their mask up. So maybe we learned something from the kids, Allison.
Yeah, for real, Kerry. That's great to see and hear. How do the parents feel about sending their kids back to school? I imagine some of them might be concerned.
Well, understandably so, of course, because we do know that it's proximity that results in the spread of coronavirus. And new studies show that kids are susceptible to coronavirus much more than we initially thought. And so when science tells us that, it's of concern. One of the things they're doing is trying their best to socially distance. Now, in a county where everywhere in the country, you can't just pop up a new school. These are brick and mortar. They're standing. The school here, the Barbara Harvey Elementary, was built 2 years ago. But one of the things that's working here is 48% of the students came back to school. The others decided that they would either do an online learning or do a hybrid where they're online or coming back. That means that there's fewer students actually in the building, and fewer students in the building. Well, that means that there's less proximity. Listen to what some of the parents had to tell us.
We shouldn't be opening up schools. We're not ready. Children aren't ready. Children aren't going to be able to stay 6 feet apart. It's not a safe thing to do. I know everyone wants to get their kids back to school, but I don't feel this is a smart decision right now.
No, it's not a worry or a fear. We have taught our children so well, and she's very good with the mask and washing hands. And I think children nowadays are better at washing their hands and being aware to not putting their hands in their mouths, and just general hygiene practice that's come from this. So.
That first mother that we heard who said she did not agree with the idea of opening schools nonetheless dropped her child off. And this points out a very important dilemma across the country, and that is parents who have jobs, but they don't have the option of work from home. And so they feel that they have no choice but to let their small young children come to school, but at the same time, they're very anxious about them being in school and potentially being exposed to coronavirus, Allison.
Kerry, the pandemic and politics certainly overlapping this year. President Trump overwhelmingly won Manatee County back in 2016. What are people there saying about how he's handled the pandemic and whether they'll support him again come November?
Well, it's very clear from talking to the parents here today that in some cases, the issues that matter to them highest is, of course, the pandemic that we're dealing with. They talk about the economy. They talk about inequality in America. But it always seems to circle back to coronavirus. But I also found some people who seem to have made up their minds well in advance of what we usually think of, that last-minute decision-making that takes place often in a national election. It seems that now we're a little less than 3 months out, that people are pretty much decided, and much of it being decided on this single issue of coronavirus. Let's take a listen.
This is something that needs to go beyond political lines. We just need to do what's right for our nation and just trust our leadership that's in place.
It has me worried the way that the president has handled all of coronavirus.
Does it influence your feelings towards the national election?
Yes, a little bit.
Allison, a very successful first day. The folks here happy that the kids showed up, understanding that some kids decided to do online learning. This is sort of a rollout county by county. Florida has 67 counties. Manatee County now back in school, and of course monitoring the numbers, because we've seen what's happened in other parts of the country where they opened schools up and now they've had to close them back up. But on day one, everything went swimmingly. Allison?
Monitoring the numbers and monitoring the storms. Kerry Sanders in Florida, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Hey, NBC News viewers, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Subscribe by clicking on that button down here, and click on any of the videos over here to watch the latest interviews, show highlights, and digital exclusives. Thanks for watching.